And we have one rules matter to consider. So I think as long as we have the meeting open, shall we consider the rule issue? Good? Okay. So, Mac, do you want to take it away? What if you gave a hearing and nobody came?
Okay, the rule change that we're looking at today is number 5, conflict of interest. Submittals in order to provide information to the board in a timely manner. Any documentation that appellates or opponents want the member of the board to read prior to the public hearing must be received by the staff of the board no later than 5 days prior to the public hearing. We would like to see that change to submittals in order to provide information to the board in a timely manner. Any documentation that appellants want the members of the board to read prior to the public hearing must be received by the staff of the board no later than 14 days prior to the public hearing.
Good. So just to put this in context, we talked about this last time, and the issue that came up was not so much the appellants having to turn things in 14 days in advance, but rather opponents getting things in 5 days in advance, which none of us realized was already in the rules. So we kind of tabled it so that we could see what other options were available. And we may still be able to follow in the footsteps of the zoning board, which posts these items on kind of a SharePoint site, and still have the 5 days in the rule. On top of that, and I think Alicia can tell you, we have had emails that come in with 1 or 2 days notice that still make it into our packet, or at least get forwarded to us for us to see that they exist. I agree. I mean, Sean made some great points last meeting, but I think since the 5 days already existed and it has not caused us any issues, we do need to address the 14-day issue because there are a number of cases coming down the pike, and we're just going to overwork the staff if we don't give them that buffer of 14 days. Have I kind of summarized it?
Yes, you have. Basically, Councilmember Parker wanted to look into the technical aspects of having it posted, which, if you change the rule or not, that can be done.
Okay.
But irrespective of the vote, but the opposition, the time limit on the opposition does not change, but just the appellant. And the reason for that is these cases have to be prepared in advance, and the only way that we can prepare them accurately is if we have the information submitted in a timely basis, whereby we have the actual time to make the preparation.
I don't want to throw another wrench in this, but I seem to recall that Sean had another concern, which was there's no allowance in here for supporters. So is it possible, without this being too much drama, to have the proposed change read documentation that opponents or supporters want the member of the board to read prior to the public hearing? We'd never had any recognition that occasionally we do get letters of support.
I agree.
Alex has something to say on the matter.
Just want to point out, too, that the board can always vote to waive the rule if someone comes in. And oftentimes you'll see at other commissions like planning, someone will come in with like 1 copy of a document instead of the 8 required, and just they'll pass it around, and that kind of gets incorporated into the record that way. So I just want to make sure the board understands this isn't a straitjacket. You can always choose to waive the rule for particular instances.
Okay.
Yes, and I also think that the provision for bringing a hard copy to the meeting is actually going to cover just about everything.
Okay. Yeah, so the change says documentation the application or opponents, the applicant rather, or opponents wish to provide to the board after the deadline can be presented to the board members by providing 8 copies at the public hearing. However, the board may defer cases in order to review any materials received after the deadline and allowing us to waive the rule too. It just seems like we have a lot of, we give ourselves a lot of wiggle room.
And
What do you think?
I'd also like to note that for the appellants, it's 14 days, but for the opponents, it remains at 5.
Yeah. Again, what do you gentlemen think would be the difficulty associated with adding the word supporters?
I don't think legal has any issues. You could do that here, and it'll just get incorporated into the rule.
Okay.
I will say, though, that whenever you do deviate from the rule, if you get documents less than 5 days or less than 14, depending on who's sending it, or if there's less than 8 copies of it, you probably should have a motion to waive the rule for it.
Okay.
So that may end up becoming cumbersome in practice. I don't know. But it's just something I would recommend having the vote.
It doesn't seem to happen that often, though, right?
Not often enough in my memory.
Okay. Well, then advise me, guys, what do you think? Should we try to add that word or just take it as it comes and waive rules, whether or not we have to make a motion for it when and if the situation presents itself to us?
And as to that aspect, I would recommend you make that modification, because otherwise there's no mechanism for supporters to do that. So I think that's an appropriate modification.
We have no mechanism to recognize that there might even be supporters. So, and there have been. We've had a few occasions where someone's come on that. All right.
It'll be no issue to just add that once the vote is completed, if that's the way you vote.
Okay. Well, then that'll be, the first motion is I move to add and supporters to the 4th line of the proposed change. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There we go. So that motion carries. And then we, I believe, want to move to approve this rule change. Yeah?
Yep, as just amended, yes.
Yes. So I move to approve the language change as amended. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Excellent. Show of hands.
Aye.
This motion passes too. That was easy. Great. Okay. And then we are at 1:16 p.m. And in the past, we've held the hearing for 15 minutes. I'm fine with 15 minutes as a cutoff period for appellants to show up for 1 o'clock hearing. Yeah?
As am I.
I move we adjourn.
I second. That concludes today's.
Actually, before we do that,
Taking my gavel away from me.
have we seen Mr. Ibarra's name on the docket before? Is this a deferral from a previous meeting?
This is from last month.
It's a deferral by rule, because if you don't show up the first time, it's deferral by rule. If you don't show up the second time, it's a dismissal by rule, and they have to reapply for the appeal.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
So this will be noted as a dismissal by rule. You don't have to vote on it.
We didn't need to do anything. It was by rule.
Correct. Yes, by rule, it'll be noted in the minutes.
Perfect.
It's dismissed by rule, and they have to reapply.
Just wanted to make sure we weren't skipping any procedural steps.
Appreciate the clarification.
Can I close?
Yes, you
Okay.
close the meeting.
We consider today's hearing closed. Okay.
Put on a sweater for nothing.
Terrence took a shower for nothing.
I did.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.